It's too loud! This is a community event!
An HOA president just shoved my 10-year-old autistic son into the deep end of our community swimming pool. Right there at a party. 50 people are watching. Every single one of them saw it happen. My boy was having what we call a sensory meltdown. Too much noise. Too many people. Too much of everything is hitting him all at once. And this woman, this HOA president, she said he was ruining the event. Here's what she did on to know about me. I am the district attorney for this entire county, and I just watched her commit felony child endangerment on video, with witnesses everywhere. I announced my name and my title right there at that pool. Her face, it went white as a sheet, drained of all color in about 2 seconds flat. What happened next? Well, buckle up, because this story is going to take you places you won't believe. Let me back up and paint the full picture for you here. My name's Michael, and I've been the district attorney in our county for going on 8 years now. My wife, Sarah, and I moved into this planned community about 3 years ago. Nice place, really. Good schools nearby, safe neighborhood, community pool, all the amenities you'd want when you're raising a family. Our son, Tyler, he's 10 years old, and he's on the autism spectrum. Beautiful kid, smart as a whip, loves dinosaurs, space, and anything to do with computers, but he processes the world differently than most folks do. Loud noises, bright lights, too many people talking at once, it can overwhelm him fast. We've worked with therapists, we've learned the signs, and we do everything we can to help him navigate situations that might trigger what's called a sensory overload. Now, our HOA is run by a woman named Karen. I know the name writes itself, doesn't it? But this woman, she takes that stereotype and runs a marathon with it. Karen's been the HOA president for 5 years. She treats that position like she's the mayor of a small country. Every rule in the book gets enforced. Every blade of grass gets measured. Every holiday decoration gets scrutinized. We'd had a few run-ins with her before. Nothing major. She'd sent us violation notices about Tyler's bike being on the front lawn of it, though it was there for maybe 20 minutes. She'd complained about our garbage cans being visible from the street on a non-collection. They'd been out for 3 hours after we got home from vacation. Little stuff. Petty stuff. The kind of thing that tells you someone has way too much time on their hands and not enough actual problems to worry about. But we kept our heads down, paid our dues. Followed the rules as best we could. Sarah always said, don't poke the bear, and we didn't. That annual community summer party though, that's where everything changed. Every August, our HOA throws this big community pool party. It's supposed to be this great neighborhood bonding thing. Free food, music, games for the kids, adults standing around with drinks, talking about property values and landscaping. You know the type of event. This particular Saturday was hot. I'm talking 95 degrees, humidity you could cut with a knife. The kind of day where the air conditioning in your car doesn't even kick in before you reach your destination. Perfect pool weather, according to the invitation that got stuck in everyone's door. Sarah and I talked about whether we should take Tyler. We always have that conversation before community events. We weigh the pros and cons. The social interaction is good for him, but the sensory input can be rough. We decided to go, but agreed we'd keep a close eye on him and leave the second he showed signs of getting overwhelmed. We got there around 2 in the afternoon. The place was already packed. 50, maybe 60 people. Kids running everywhere, screaming and laughing. Music blaring from speakers someone had set up near the pavilion. The smell of hamburgers and hot dogs on the grill mixes with chlorine from the pool. Tyler did great at first. He sat with Sarah at one of the tables, ate a hot dog, and drank some lemonade. He had his noise-canceling headphones with him. We never leave home without them, and he put them on when things started getting louder. He was managing. We were proud of him. But then Karen showed up with a bullhorn. A bullhorn at a community pool party. She started making announcements, reminding people about pool rules, telling kids not to run, announcing the start of some organized games she'd planned. And that bullhorn, was loud. Painfully loud. Even I winced when she clicked it on, and I don't have sensory processing issues. I saw Tyler's hands go to his ears, even with the headphones on. His face started to scrunch up. His breathing got faster. Sarah caught it too, and she was already standing up, ready to take him inside or back to the house. But before we could move, Karen aimed that bullhorn right in our direction and announced, "Everyone to the pool for the cannonball contest. Kids first. Let's go, let's go." Tyler stood up fast. Too fast. His chair scraped back, and he started making this sound, not quite crying, not quite yelling, just this vocalization that he does when he's overloaded. His hands were flapping at his sides, and he was rocking back and forth. I moved toward him. Sarah was already there. But Karen noticed. Of course, she noticed. She marched over, bullhorn still in hand, and said loud enough for people nearby to hear, "Is there a problem here?" Sarah, calm as anything, said, "He's okay. He's just a little overwhelmed by the noise. We're going to take him inside for a bit." And Karen looked at Tyler like he was some kind of disruption to her perfect party. She looked at Sarah and me like we were bad parents who couldn't control our kid. Then she said the words I'll never forget. "Well, he needs to learn to behave at community events. This is unacceptable." Sarah's jaw tightened. I felt my blood pressure spike. But before either of us could respond, Tyler bolted. When he gets overwhelmed, sometimes he runs. It's a flight response. His brain is screaming at him to get away from the stimulus, and his body just goes. We've worked on it in therapy, but in the moment, when everything's too much, he can't always control it. He ran toward the pool area. Not toward the water, just toward the fence line on the far side, where it was a little quieter, a little less crowded. Sarah went after him immediately. I was right behind her, but Karen stepped in front of Tyler, blocked his path, put her hands up like she was herding an animal. "Stop right there," she said. Not kindly, not with any understanding, just a command. Tyler tried to go around her. She sidestepped. He tried the other direction. She moved again, and he's making these distressed sounds now, and his hands are over his ears, and he's clearly in crisis. "Karen, move," I said, not yelling, firm, clear. "Let him through. He doesn't get to just run around and disrupt. He's autistic, and he's having a meltdown," Sarah said, her voice louder now. "Move out of the way." People were watching now. The music was still playing, but folks had stopped talking. Kids had stopped playing. Everyone was looking at this scene unfolding by the pool. Karen's face flushed red. She didn't like being challenged, didn't like being told what to do, especially not in front of her community. "And then I still can't believe this happened." She put both hands on Tyler's shoulders, and she pushed him backward, hard, right, toward the pool. Tyler stumbled back. His foot hit the pool edge, and he went in, straight into the deep end, 9 feet of water. The sound of the splash was like a gunshot in the sudden silence. Everything stopped. The music seemed to cut out, though maybe it didn't, and I just couldn't hear it anymore over the roaring in my ears. Tyler doesn't swim well. He knows how we've had him in lessons, but he panics in deep water. And after what had just happened, after the overload and the confrontation, and now the shock of being underwater, he was panicking. I didn't think. I just jumped in. Still had my phone in my pocket, my wallet, my watch. Didn't matter. I hit the water and swam to Tyler, grabbed him, pulled him up. He was coughing and sputtering and crying, and I got him to the edge, where Sarah helped pull him out. Tyler was sobbing, clinging to Sarah, shaking like a leaf. Sarah was checking him over, making sure he was breathing okay, talking to him softly. And I turned around to look at Karen. She was standing there, still holding that damn bullhorn, with this look on her face, as she'd just realized she might have gone too far. But not apologetic, not remorseful, more like calculating, like she was already working out how to spin this. I climbed out of the pool, water streaming off me. Every eye in that place was on us now. "What the hell is wrong with you?" I said. My voice was level, but there was steel in it. The kind of tone I use in a courtroom when I'm done playing games. "He was out of control," Karen said, defensively. "Someone needed to." "He's a 10-year-old child having a medical crisis," I said, "and you physically assaulted him and pushed him into a pool where he could have drowned. That's not Ty." "Didn't, he's fine," she sputtered. "Don't be so dramatic. There are 50 witnesses here." "Karen," I said, gesturing to the crowd. "Everyone saw what you just did." Her eyes darted around. People were nodding. Some folks were filming on their phones. I could see them. One woman was comforting her own daughter, who was crying at what she'd just witnessed. "And you know what else?" I said, stepping closer. "It's on video. The HOA has security cameras at this pool. You installed them yourself, remember, for security purposes." Karen's face went a shade paler. "So let me explain something to you," I continued. "What did you just do? That's child endangerment. That's assault. That's a battery. And given that my son has a documented disability that you were informed of, yes, we disclosed that when we moved in. This could also be a civil rights violation. You can't," she started. "Oh, I'm not done," I said. "My name is Michael Chen. I'm the district attorney for this county. I prosecute people for doing exactly what you just did." The color drained from Karen's face completely. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. "Now, I'm going to take my son home," I said, speaking clearly so everyone could hear. "I'm going to make sure he's medically evaluated. I'm going to document his injuries. Yes, there will be injuries, at minimum psychological trauma. And then I'm going to decide what charges to file." I didn't know he was," Karen stammered. "Didn't know he was what, autistic?" "Yes, you did. We told the HOA board when we moved in. It's in our file. You sent us a snippy email about it when we requested a pool key tag for him with his medical information on it. Remember that?" She did. I could see it in her eyes. "But even if you didn't know," I continued, "that wouldn't matter. You don't get to push children into pools because they're having a hard time. You don't get to put your hands on other people's kids. Period." Sarah had gotten Tyler wrapped in a towel, and she had her arm around him. He was still crying, but quieter now. She gave me a look, the look that meant we needed to go, now, and deal with the legal stuff later. "We're leaving," I said. "Don't contact us. Don't come to our house. If you want to say anything, have your lawyer call my office." And we walked out of there, through the crowd of neighbors who parted like the Red Sea. Some of them looked sympathetic, some looked shocked. A few looked angry at Karen, not at us. As we reached the gate, I heard someone behind me say, "I got the whole thing on video. Every second. If you need it." I turned. It was Dave, a retired teacher who lived 3 doors down. Good guy. He held up his phone. "Send it to this email address," I said, pulling out a business card that had somehow stayed dry in my shirt pocket. "And thank you." He nodded. "That woman's been a tyrant for years. It's about time someone stood up to her." We got Tyler home, and the first thing Sarah did was call our pediatrician. Dr. Hassan has been Tyler's doctor since he was a baby. She knows him, knows his autism, knows how to talk to him. She told us to bring him in immediately. So we did. Dr. Hassan was gentle with Tyler. She examined him, thoroughly checked his breathing, his chest, looked for bruises, checked his oxygen levels. Physically, he was okay. Some redness on his shoulders where Karen had gripped him, a scrape on his elbow from hitting the pool edge. But the psychological impact, that was the real concern. Tyler was nonverbal for the rest of that day, wouldn't speak, just sat in Sarah's lap or mine, staring at nothing. His eyes had that distant look he gets when he's completely shut down, when his brain has just retreated. Dr. Hassan documented everything, took photos of the marks on his shoulders, wrote detailed notes about his mental state. She recommended an emergency session with his therapist and possibly a child psychologist to assess for trauma. "Michael," she said quietly, while Tyler was with Sarah in the waiting room, "as a mandated reporter, I need to tell you that I have to file a report with Child Protective Services about this incident. I know, I said. Do what you need to do. And as his doctor, and as someone who cares about your family, she continued, I'm telling you that what happened to Tyler today was serious. The physical danger was real. He could have hit his head, could have inhaled water. But the emotional trauma is going to be the bigger issue. He trusted that community space. He felt safe there. That's been violated now. I felt my jaw clench. She was right. We'd spent years building Tyler's confidence, helping him feel safe in the world. And Karen had shattered that in one moment of cruelty. When we got home, I did what I always do when I need to think clearly. I made a cup of coffee and sat down with my legal pad. I started writing. Everything that happened. Exact quotes as best I could remember them. The timeline. The witnesses. The video evidence. My training kicked in. I've prosecuted cases like this before, and I knew exactly what I needed to document. Sarah came in after she'd gotten Tyler settled in his room with his weighted blanket and his favorite dinosaur documentary playing softly. How is he? I asked. He's dissociated, she said, and her voice cracked. He's not here, Michael. He's somewhere far away in his head, where it's safe. I stood up and pulled her into a hug. She cried into my shoulder. Sarah is the strongest person. I know she's an occupational therapist who works with special needs kids, but this was our son, our baby, and some power-hungry HOA president had hurt him. What are we going to do? She asked. Legally, everything, I said. I'm filing charges, criminal charges, and we're going to pursue a civil suit. But first, we need to focus on Tyler. Get him to his therapist. Get him stable. Document everything for both the criminal case and the civil case. Will you get in trouble? Conflict of interest, or something? I'd already thought about that. I'm not personally prosecuting the case. I'll hand it to one of my assistant as probably Rebecca. She's handled child endangerment cases before. I'll recuse myself from the direct prosecution, but I can still provide testimony as a witness and as a parent. It's all above board. Sarah nodded. I want her destroyed, Michael. I know that's not. I know we're supposed to be better than that. But I want her to pay for what she did to our son. She will, I said. I promise you, she will. Monday morning, I went into my office early. I called Rebecca Torres into my office before anyone else got in. Rebecca's been with the DA's office for 6 years. Harvard Law, sharp as they come. She's prosecuted child abuse cases, domestic violence, everything. If anyone could handle this case and handle Karen's inevitable fancy lawyers, it was Rebecca. I told her everything. Showed her the video Dave had sent. Meat was clear as day. Karen approaches Tyler, blocking him, putting her hands on him, pushing him backward into the pool. I'm jumping in, the panic, all of it. Jesus, Michael, Rebecca said, watching the video. I am so sorry. How's Tyler? Not good, I said honestly, but that's not why I'm showing you this in my capacity as DA. I need you to take this case. I'm recused, I'm a witness, and a victim's parent. But I want this prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Rebecca nodded slowly. Child endangerment, assault, battery, possibly reckless endangerment, if we can argue she knew he couldn't swim well. We could even argue a hate crime enhancement, given his disability and her knowledge of it. Build the strongest case you can, I said. But do it right, by the book. I don't want any defense attorney claiming I'm using my position to pursue a vendetta. This needs to be airtight. It will be, Rebecca said. Give me 48 hours to interview witnesses and review evidence. Then I'll present it to a judge for charges. Over the next 2 days, Rebecca worked like a machine. She interviewed every single person who was at that pool party. She got statements. She collected the HOA's security footage, which Karen had no legal ground to refuse, since it was a criminal investigation. She talked to Dr. Hassan, to Tyler's therapist, to the school counselor who'd worked with Tyler. The evidence was overwhelming. Multiple witnesses all told the same story. The video footage was damning, and the medical documentation showed both physical and psychological harm. On Wednesday, Rebecca filed charges: felony child endangerment, misdemeanor assault, and misdemeanor battery. The hate crime enhancement was left off for strategic reasons. It's harder to prove, and we didn't need it to secure a conviction with what we had. Thursday morning, 2 police officers showed up at Karen's house with an arrest warrant. I wasn't there, of course. But the neighborhood Facebook group lit up like a Christmas tree. People are posting about seeing Karen being led out in handcuffs. Speculation running wild. Some people defending her. This seems excessive. It was just an accident. That Da is abusing his power. But most people were on our side. Because they'd seen what happened. They'd seen a grown woman push a disabled child into a pool because he was inconveniencing her. Karen made bail the same day. Her lawyer, some expensive defense attorney from the city, immediately started making noise. He gave a statement to the local news, calling the charges politically motivated and a gross overreach by a vindictive DA. That's when I gave my own statement. Not as the DA, I stayed clear of that, but as Tyler's father. I stood on our front porch with Sarah beside me, and I read a prepared statement to the news cameras that had shown up in our neighborhood. On Saturday, August 17th, my 10-year-old autistic son was physically assaulted and pushed into a swimming pool by the president of our HOA. He was having a medical crisis, a sensory meltdown, instead of showing compassion or even basic human decency. This woman put her hands on my child and endangered his life. There were 50 witnesses. There is video evidence. There is medical documentation of both physical and psychological harm. These are the facts. The legal process will move forward based on evidence, not on anyone's position or title. My family asks for privacy as we focus on our son's recovery. Thank you. Short, factual, no emotion, just the truth. The news ran with it. Local stations picked it up. Then the regional news. Then, somehow, it hit social media and went viral. People had opinions. Boy, did they have opinions. Some folks started the hashtag justice for Tyler. Others accused me of weaponizing my position. True crime YouTubers started making videos, analyzing the case. Disability rights advocates rallied around Tyler. HOA critics, and there are millions of them, used Karen as the poster child for everything wrong with homeowner associations. Our neighborhood became divided. Some people left flowers and cards on our doorstep. Others left nasty notes. Someone spray-painted "bully" on Karen's driveway. We didn't condone that. We wanted justice through legal channels, not vigilantism, but it showed how angry people were. The HOA board held an emergency meeting. Without consulting anyone, without due process, they voted to remove Karen as president. She screamed at them, threatened to sue them. But they had their own lawyers, and those lawyers said her remaining in a leadership position was a liability the HOA couldn't afford. She was out, replaced by a retired accountant named Bob, who immediately sent us a formal apology on behalf of the HOA and offered to cover Tyler's therapy costs. We accepted the apology and declined the money. We didn't want anything that could be construed as a settlement or hush money. Meanwhile, Tyler was slowly coming back to himself. His therapist was seeing him twice a week now. He was talking again, but he had nightmares. He didn't want to go anywhere near the community pool. Even hearing water running in the bathtub made him anxious for a while. Sarah took a temporary leave from work to focus on him full-time. I adjusted my schedule to be home more. We did everything we could to help him feel safe again. The preliminary hearing happened 6 weeks after the incident. Rebecca presented the evidence. Karen's lawyer tried to argue it was an accident, that she'd just been trying to redirect Tyler and he'd slipped. But the video didn't lie. You could see her plant her feet, see her push with both hands, see the force behind it. The judge wasn't buying the defense's story. "I've seen the evidence," Judge Martinez said. "I'm binding this over for trial. The defendant will remain out on bail, but she is to have no contact with the victim or his family. If she violates that order, she'll be remanded to custody." Next court date is January 14th. Karen's face was stone. She didn't look at us, didn't look at anyone, just stared straight ahead. As we left the courthouse, a reporter shoved a microphone in my face. "Mr. Chen, are you satisfied with today's outcome?" "I'm satisfied that the legal system is working as it should," I said. Evidence was presented, a judge reviewed it, and the case is moving forward. That's all we can ask for. What about people who say you're abusing your position as DA? I'm not prosecuting this case. I'm recused. An experienced prosecutor is handling it based purely on evidence. The same process that would happen for any victim. Next question, how's Tyler doing? That one I didn't answer. I just kept walking. Tyler's recovery wasn't a soundbite for the evening news. The trial was set for early March. That gave us months of waiting. Months of therapy for Tyler. Months of tension in our neighborhood. Months of Karen's lawyer filing motion after motion, trying to get the case dismissed. None of them worked. The evidence was too solid. When the trial finally came, the courthouse was packed. Local news was there. Disability rights groups sent observers. Even some other DAS from neighboring counties showed up to watch, partly to support me, partly because cases involving public officials are always scrutinized. Rebecca was brilliant. She presented the video footage. She called witness after witness who described exactly what they saw. She brought in Dr. Hassan, who testified about Tyler's injuries and trauma. She brought in Tyler's therapist, who explained the long-term psychological impact. We'd made the decision not to have Tyler testify. His therapist advised against it. She said putting him on the stand would be re-traumatizing, and he was still fragile. Rebecca agreed. She said we had enough evidence without putting him through that. Karen's defense attorney tried everything. He argued that Tyler was out of control and Karen was trying to maintain order. He tried to paint her as a dedicated community volunteer who'd made a split-second mistake. He even tried to suggest that I was coaching witnesses and manipulating the system. Rebecca tore each argument apart. She showed that Karen had multiple opportunities to step aside or call for help, rather than putting her hands on Tyler. She demonstrated that Karen's own emails showed a pattern of hostility toward our family. She proved that the investigation was conducted independently of me. And then she played Karen's jailhouse phone call. See, when Karen was arrested, she'd made a call to a friend from the holding cell, and like all jailhouse calls, it was recorded. In that call, Karen said, and I quote from the transcript Rebecca read in court, that little brat was ruining everything, and his parents just let him act out. I had to do something. How was I supposed to know his dad was the damned This is such bullshit. That quote sealed her fate. No remorse, no acknowledgement that she'd done anything wrong. Just anger at being caught. The jury deliberated for less than 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. At sentencing, the judge had clearly had enough of Karen's attitude. Her lawyer made a plea for leniency, no prior record. Pillar of the community, made a mistake. All the usual stuff. But then the judge asked if I wanted to give a victim impact statement. I hadn't planned to. But Sarah squeezed my hand and nodded. So I stood up. Your Honor, I said, my son is 10 years old. He's autistic, which means he experiences the world differently from most people. He works hard every single day to manage challenges that other kids don't even notice. He's brave, he's resilient, and he was making real progress in learning to navigate social situations. I paused, took a breath. What the defendant did to him set that progress back months. He's afraid of water now. He's afraid of crowds. He's afraid of community spaces where he should feel safe. He has nightmares. He asks us constantly if the mean lady is going to hurt him again, and we have to reassure him, over and over, that he's safe. That adults are supposed to protect children, not hurt them. Karen was staring at the table in front of her, still not looking at us. The defendant has shown no remorse, I continued. No apology, no acknowledgement of the harm she caused. She's angry that she got caught, not sorry for what she did. And that tells me, and tells this court, everything we need to know about her character. I sat back down. Sarah was crying quietly beside me. The judge sentenced Karen to 2 years in county jail, with credit for time served, and the possibility of parole after 1 year. She also got 3 years probation after her release, mandatory anger management classes, and a permanent restraining order, keeping her away from our family. It wasn't the maximum sentence, but it was justice. As the bailiff led Karen away, she finally looked at us. Just for a second, and you know what I saw in her eyes? Not remorse, not an apology, entitlement. Like she still couldn't believe she was being held accountable for her actions. That was 8 months ago now. Tyler's doing better. He's back in regular therapy, but just once a week now, instead of twice. He's talking about the incident less. He still won't go near the community pool, but we've started taking him to a private swim school with therapists who specialize in kids with trauma. Small pool, quiet environment, one-on-one attention. He's slowly regaining his confidence in the water. The nightmares have mostly stopped. He sleeps through the night now more often than not. Our neighborhood settled down, too. The new HOA board is, well, they're actually decent people. They've implemented new policies about the treatment of residents with disabilities. They've done training for all board members. They've made the community pool area more sensory-friendly with quiet hours and designated low stimulation times. Some good came from something terrible, I suppose. We also settled the civil lawsuit against Karen personally. Her homeowners insurance covered most of it. It went into a trust fund for Tyler's future therapy and medical needs. We didn't want revenge money. We wanted to make sure Tyler would have resources for as long as he needs them. As for Karen, she's serving her time. She'll be eligible for parole in a few months. When she gets out, she'll have a felony record. She'll have that restraining order. She'll have anger management requirements. Whether she's learned anything from all this, I don't know. I hope so. I hope she's thought about what she did and why it was wrong. I hope she's worked on whatever was broken inside her that made her think it was okay to put her hands on a disabled child. But honestly, I don't spend much time thinking about Karen anymore. I spend my time thinking about Tyler, about helping him heal, about making sure he knows he's loved and safe, and that what happened to him was not his fault. Some people have asked me if I regret how I handled things, if I think I came down too hard, if my position as DA made me go overboard, and my answer is always the same. I did what any parent should do. I protected my child. I used the legal system the way it's supposed to be used to hold people accountable for harming others. I didn't abuse my power. I recused myself and let the process work. If anything, I think my position as DA made me more careful, more measured. I knew that everything I did would be scrutinized, so I made sure it was all done right. Tyler asked me something last week. He said, "Dad, is it over? Is she gone?" And I said, "Yeah, buddy, it's over. She can't hurt you anymore. You're safe." He thought about that for a minute. Then he said, "Good. Can we get ice cream?" And we did. We got ice cream. The three of us sat on our back porch, eating chocolate chip and mint chocolate chip in Rocky Road, and we talked about dinosaurs in school and his upcoming birthday party. Normal stuff, family stuff, the kind of stuff that matters, because that's what this was really about. Not revenge, not making an example of someone, not legal victories or viral news stories. It was about protecting my son, about teaching him that when someone hurts you, there are people who will stand up for you, that the system when it works right protects the vulnerable, that he matters, that his autism doesn't make him less valuable or less deserving of respect and safety. That's the lesson I hope he takes from this. Not the trauma of being pushed into that pool, but the knowledge that his mom and dad fought for him, that justice happened, that he was believed and protected, and honestly, that's enough for me. So if you're a parent dealing with something similar, if your child has been hurt, if someone with power has abused it, if you're wondering whether it's worth fighting back, I'll tell you what I learned. Document everything. Trust the system, but verify it's working. Focus on your child's healing first, and don't be afraid to stand up to bullies, no matter what title they have or what position they hold, because at the end of the day, nothing matters more than keeping your kids safe. Thanks for listening to my story. Merry Christmas, everyone. Hug your loved ones tight. And if you see someone vulnerable being mistreated, speak up. Be the voice they need.